the National Institution for Human Rights in the Kingdom of Bahrain, a decade of dedication towards defending human rights. Since His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa ascended to the throne, the Kingdom of Bahrain has experienced major changes towards fostering democracy. These include the establishment of foundations of state of law and building an integrative legislative and legal system, in addition to public institutions to promote human rights. His Majesty the King established the National Institution for Human Rights, NIHR, on the 10th of November 2009, by Royal Order No. 46 of 2009, and granted it mandates and power in line with the Paris Principles that relate to the status and national institutions for the promotion and protection of human rights, UN General Assembly Resolution 48/134 of 1993. Further independence was sought, and 4 years later, the Council of Representatives and the Shura Council endorsed Law No. 26 of 2014, establishing the National Institution for Human Rights, which was issued by His Majesty the King. It was amended by Decree Law No. 20 of 2016 in order to comply with the observances of the Subcommittee on Accreditation, making the current law a model law. The NIHR is a permanent and effective member in the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, GANHARI, and the Asia-Pacific Forum for the NHRIs, APF. The NIHR can participate actively in Human Rights Council sessions and treaty bodies meetings, special procedures, subcommittees and working groups, and acts as an independent institution that aims to promote and protect human rights. His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, King of the Kingdom of Bahrain, has said that the establishment of the National Institution for Human Rights was in response to the National Dialogue decisions, the views of civil society institutions, and a wide sector of expert and human rights activists. We commend the important role played by the Council of Commissioners and the functions and responsibilities of the National Institution for Human Rights, aimed at consolidating human rights values, raising awareness, and contributing to ensure their free and independent implementation. The NIHR is located in Sif district of the Kingdom of Bahrain's capital, Manama. Article 2. An independent institution is established named the National Institution for Human Rights. It is responsible for promoting and protecting human rights and consolidating its values and contributing to securing its practice. It shall be located in the city of Manama. The building shall be accessible for people with disabilities. The institution shall have an independent legal personality, as well as financial and administrative independence, and shall carry out its duties freely, neutrally, and independently. The logo of the NIHR conveys the message of the protection and promotion of human rights. Philosophy of the logo. All segments of society. The shape has two people supporting each other. This represents a spectrum of Bahraini society and all its sects, components, religions, and races. One goal. The spinnaker represents one goal that we all work for, which is to promote and protect human rights. Together to safety. The ship cruising with all spectrums of society represents equality, justice, and progress towards a promising future. The NIHR's vision is, human rights culture is a lifestyle, and its mission is, together to create a better practice of human rights. The NIHR celebrates a decade of dedication towards defending human rights. Over the past decade, 50 commissioners were members of the Council of Commissioners. Members of the Council of Commissioners shall be selected from advisory firms, academic organizations, civil society organizations, unions, social, economic and professional institutions, human rights defenders and legislative authorities. The percentage of women in the Council of Commissioners is 45%. The Council of Commissioners meets once every 3 months, and in the past 10 years, the Council has held 51 regular meetings and 14 special meetings. The Bureau of the Council of Commissioners meets once every 2 months and have held 32 meetings since the inception of the NIHR. The 3 standing committees are the Complaints Monitoring and Follow-up Committee, the General Rights and Freedoms Committee, and the Committee on the Rights of Persons Deprived of Liberty. The committees meet every month and have held more than 250 meetings in the past 10 years. General Secretariat. 3 people held the position of Secretary General, and the proportion of female staff in the Secretariat was 58%. In the past 10 years, the General Secretariat has implemented over 500 training programs for its staff both locally and abroad. Some of these programs include human rights, international human rights law, English language, finance and accounting, information technology, programming, call center, etiquette, self-development, customer service. Strategies and plan of action over the past decade. Strategic goals: engage in human rights protection efforts, enhance efforts in the field of legislative review and development, participation in the preparation of an expanded national program for human rights education, strengthening cooperation at national, regional and international levels, the environmental impact on human rights and sustainable economic development, the right to equal opportunities, promotion of human rights principles in civil society and business. Our achievements include considering the consistency of the legislative and regulatory provisions with regional and international conventions related to human rights. We have provided more than 100 legal opinions to the 3 authorities, executive, legislative and judicial, in the past 10 years. The NIHR provided advice covering the Penal Code, money laundering and funding terrorist organizations, the law of public gatherings, marches and protests, labor unions and regulations, Disability Employment and Welfare Act, domestic workers, law firms, the law of genetic footprints, children's rights, traffic laws, in addition to a recommendation towards children born to Bahraini mothers obtaining the Bahraini nationality, a proposal on the rights of the elderly to an adequate standard of living, a proposal to raise the age of minors, a proposal regarding the National Plan for Human Rights, recommending criminalizing the exploitation of minors in political campaigns, submitting reports. Since inception, the NIHR has issued 6 annual reports and 7 parallel reports to treaty bodies, the UPR, and to the Arab Human Rights Committee. Receiving complaints through the establishment of a call center and establishing an electronic system for recording complaints, assistance, and daily monitoring. In the past 10 years, the NIHR has received over 4,000 calls through the hotline and over 800 human rights complaints. Some of the complaints were the rights of physical and mental integrity, the right to a fair trial is guaranteed, the right to nationality, the right to liberty and security, the right to freedom of opinion and expression, the right to equality before the law, the right to participate in public affairs, freedom of religion and beliefs, the right to health, the right to education, the right to work, the right to social security, the right to a decent standard of living. In the past decade, over 1,500 legal opinions were provided. Interpersonal conflicts, issues before a judicial or administrative body, issues related to the protection of workers' rights in the private sector, requests relating to convicts or detainees, issues that occurred outside of the territorial borders of the Kingdom of Bahrain, monitoring over 120 cases related to human rights. Issues relating to domestic violence, cases of neglect and healthcare, cases of absence of a decent standard of living, cases related to environmental rights, cases of suspected human trafficking, cases related to the rights of expatriate workers. Over 35 announced and unannounced field visits were performed since inception. Conducted at correctional institutions, detention centers, deportation centers, police detention centers, health centers, shelters and local care centers for children, the elderly, battered women, and family rifts. The NIHR has attended over 80 court sessions to verify fair trials in the last decade, including criminal courts, administrative and civil courts, sharia and family courts, labor courts, courts of cassation, military courts. Issued trial attendance form to verify fair trials. Published a report on the observation of the parliamentary and municipal elections of 2018. Some of our other achievements over the past 10 years include opening a branch in the Expatriate Protection and Assistance Centre at the National Committee for Combating Human Trafficking. Over 100 participations in national, regional and international events. Over 25 working papers were presented. International human rights conventions and tools. The establishment of an Arab Court for Human Rights. The role of national human rights institutions in reforming the criminal justice system. The role of the NIHR in protecting the rights of people with disabilities. Legal protections towards freedom of expression in accordance with international laws. Children's rights in accordance with the laws of the Kingdom of Bahrain. The role of the NIHR in strengthening and protecting human rights in the Kingdom of Bahrain. The role of the NIHR in the field of criminal justice. Over 35 bulletins, publications, and leaflets in various languages were issued in the past decade. Human rights and criminal law procedures. Fair trial guarantees in accordance with international human rights standards. Labour rights in light of Bahraini labour law and international human rights standards. The NIHR leaflets were published in various languages, including Arabic, English, Hindi, Malayalam, Tagalog, and Thai. Colouring books and pamphlets for children about children's rights. The NIHR has issued over 120 statements on the situation of human rights and international days in the past 10 years. In addition to performing over 360 training programs in human rights education, through conferences, training programs, lectures, roundtable discussions, and workshops. In the last decade, the NIHR has assisted over 9,500 beneficiaries, including school and university students, civil servants, the public, youth, executive authority, civil society institutions, the private sector, the media, legislative authority, judicial authority, law enforcement officers, lawyers, women, people with disabilities, embassies and expatriates, the elderly. The National Institution for Human Rights received the Shio Prize for the promotion of human rights in the GCC region from the European Union. It is the first human rights institution to obtain ISO certification in the region for quality management systems after being audited by Bureau Veritas Holdings UK branch. The NIHR has launched Guarantee Your Rights campaign with the aim of promoting a culture of human rights in the Kingdom of Bahrain. The launch of the Human Rights Fellowship Programme. The NIHR launched an initiative to report abuses resulting from working in open places under direct sunlight in the months of July and August. Working together, our efforts will continue to protect and promote human rights despite challenges.